Huge news in the world of AI. The European Union has created the AI Act with its transparency rules. And who better to talk about this with than my friend Cameron, who is a published author and a professional copywriter. She does this for a living. And we're going to break down specifically, what does this mean for marketers? What does this mean for the world of marketing? So before we get into that, Cameron, let's just break down what the act entails. So it was officially put into place on August 2nd of 2026. And that is when Claude specifically began invisibly watermarking all of the text that it generates. How did you say it before?
Yeah, they use the watermark is a statistical bias applied to word choices.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily...
I used Claude to...
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like something you can just like kind of copy into a basic text editor and then recopy and paste somewhere else. It's not metadata. It's not code. It's not HTML. It's a statistical signal. And the way that I've kind of processed it in my human brain is it's woven into word choice. So it's invisible to readers. It's invisible to someone who's just looking for, where is that like hidden text that I need to change? And it has no effect on like the overall meaning of the text. Claude itself said that it doesn't affect quality. I would argue that to some degree, because it is going to be making choices on words to put this watermark in effect. And like I said, it survives that copy and paste. So if you're thinking like, I'll just copy it over here and then copy it over here, and I'll copy and paste it enough to where it strips that out, it travels with the text wherever it goes because it's in the inherent text itself. Now, there is a public detector that is going to be made public eventually, a detector tool that allows anyone to just go and check for that watermark. That is coming, and that doesn't necessarily have like a legal bearing on it. It's just someone's going to be able to basically see for sure if you use that tool, which I think has a huge precedent for marketers. And this was done, of course, by Claude to comply with the European Union. The AI Act has these transparency rules, and all AI tools are going to have to basically comply. And then, of course, it's not just for Europe. It's for the entire globe. It's global.
Right.
Because
setting a precedent.
It would be probably way too much work just to do this in specific things, just like the GDPR stuff for like website compliance and tracking compliance. This is a global thing. So this is the big story here, Cameron, is this is the first time a government mandate has reached directly into AI tools, which means that I think there is a future, and I'm curious I'll get your thoughts on this, but I think the future is that there will be mandatory disclosures for people, businesses who are using AI content, especially in regulated industries. Now, you and I are familiar with regulated industries. We work with a lot of accounting firms. What's your overall take on this, Cameron? I'm curious your thoughts as a copywriter, as someone who grew up without AI tools. You've written a book without an AI tool. What's your take on this from the copy standpoint?
Well, thanks for making the assumption that I grew up without AI tools. No, I think the key word is disclosure here. Yeah. I do think that I do think that disclosure is the key both in getting ahead of this, and it's also the key of what is going to happen in the future. So I think the era of people quietly using AI and not having to disclose that they are actually using AI generated content is now over. Yeah. I think it's over. It's not completely over, obviously. There are still models out there that haven't, adapted this yet, but I think that is coming.
What's an example of what you just said? I agree, like the move fast and use AI in the shadows, or like, I totally wrote this LinkedIn post and it's like 1,000 words. What's an example of that you've seen that kind of that door is going to be closed now?
Because of how accessible AI has become, and because of how prevalent it's become, and there's almost this unspoken, like everybody uses it, so we're all just going to keep using it without any consequences, without anyone, because you are, there's obviously a spectrum of how much AI you're using. Are you using it as a copy editor? Yeah. Are you using it to make outlines or to format? There's a huge spectrum there, but really when it comes to, an example would be like a LinkedIn post or an article, and maybe you throw a couple of thoughts in there, but then Claude writes the whole thing, that era is over.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So for marketers, for marketing teams, and really any business that does marketing and has kind of learned over the last couple of years to really heavily rely on AI, what do we do with this now? Like, this is a huge precedent, and this is just the beginning of this precedent. So what's the next step that marketers should take as it pertains to using AI in the work that they create?
Yeah, I mean, I think there needs to first be clarity within your internal team about how you're going to address this issue. I think this issue is inevitable. I think to an extent it was always coming at some point, like we were talking about earlier. And I think now it just becomes clear. You need to have clarity within your internal team. How are you going to use AI? And then you're going to have to communicate that externally. Yeah. You're going to have to disclose and just get ahead of it. And these are our parameters for how we use AI. AI is an extremely powerful, helpful tool. I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater and you're just like, no more AI. Yeah. We're done with it. I don't think we go that route at all. It's more just becoming very clear about how we're going to use it and how we're going to disclose about how we're using it.
Yeah, I think you have two paths here. One path is you could take the route of, we are not going to use AI at all. Ban the systems, get them out of the completely ban them from your marketing team and from every other team in your organization, and just say, we're only going to go human. That is a route you could take. And honestly, that would be really differentiating for you as a firm or as a company, or for you as a marketing team. Now, is that a good idea? In this day and age, I would argue probably not, because there's so many efficiencies that come. It's almost like if you were going to say, we're not going to use Google to research anything.
Or a calculator.
We're done
with calculators.
We shouldn't be using calculators. We learned math.
From here on out. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't think that's necessarily a good movement. I think, like you said, have a very strong AI policy within your company and within your team to say, this is exactly how we're going to use these tools. And I would say what replaces maybe full AI blog writing and newsletter writing and whatever else you're doing with it is content that is sourced from real human people within your firm. And there's different ways you can do that. We've had different discussions about that. One way, Cameron, is to do this. What we're doing right now, have a real conversation.
Because we're not AI generated.
We're not AI generated because we're making some crazy hand movements that AI people can't do. We're also smiling, which means that we're human. No, this is what I think is hopefully going to replace the put a prompt in, copy paste, ship. Having real conversations, record those conversations. It doesn't always have to be a professional video like this, but record real conversations with your subject matter experts. Use that content to create great, good blog posts and good SEO material for your website, for LinkedIn, whatever it is, instead of just prompt, copy, paste, and send. That era, I think, and I'm very glad that it's over, but I think it's over. At least it's over from hey, do you want to create good content? We've also talked about how these different social media platforms are cracking down on AI content.
Right.
LinkedIn.
AI Slop.
LinkedIn has an AI Slop button now that you can push on a piece of content. I think that's great. YouTube already asks, did you use AI to create this content and basically manipulate reality? So I think all of those checks are starting to be put in place, not just because they want to get rid of bad AI content. I think it's a compliance thing. I think they're going to have to start complying with these regulations. So I think the bottom line here is watermarking isn't the end of AI in marketing. I think it's the end of hiding it. And we shouldn't really just be figuring out how do we hide our AI use? That's like saying, how do I hide that I cheated on this test? We should be open and honest about how we're using AI. And I think we should be figuring out how to use AI to create the best content, not just the most content while we're trying to figure out, what buttons do we need to push to hide the fact that we're doing this? No, I think you said it. Everyone's using AI. My mom uses AI. Yeah. My mom and dad use AI, and they love it because it speeds up so many things for them. Yeah. So how do we create good content, Cameron, in this day and age?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing that comes to my mind here is that if you're a marketer, like this might feel like you've lost something, right? And I would just argue that you haven't lost anything because you're still a human being.
Yeah.
And the very best content, like we can talk about a spectrum of content. There's good content, and then there's actually great content that resonates. And the best content that will resonate will always be human-originated content.
Absolutely.
Every single time. If anything, this is just going to make your marketing better. Honestly, it really will. I believe you can still use AI for efficiencies, which is, again, the best part of it. And it's going to force you to inject yourself into it more.
Yeah.
And I think that is only going to result in better things. So yeah, you use your brain. You might have to adjust your workflow a little bit. Absolutely. If you have been super dependent on AI up until this point. And a lot of people have been, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can still use AI for the efficiencies and yet generate great content, content that resonates because you're a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would wrap all of this up in remember who you're writing it for or who you're creating that content for. It's another human being, right? We don't sell to other AI agents. We don't create content just to get into the algorithm and we hope we trick someone into like finding us. We should be creating good quality content that's valuable to another human being and hopefully valuable to the people that we want to be valuable to, right? We talk a lot about, good marketing is hyper-focused. It's not just how many eyeballs can I get on this, especially in B2B, especially in industries like accounting or legal or professional services where the angle should be, I want to create and grow a relationship, not just sell a widget online, right? Not just sell what I'm trying to sell, but I want to create good long-term relationships. And this blog post or this video is like the first step of that relationship. That's how we should be thinking about marketing, not just, how do I get, 1,000 people to see this? Or, how do I get somebody to buy this thing? How do I trick somebody into buying this thing? Like, that era of marketing, I think, is over, thankfully. That was like the 30 years ago, like, I'm going to trick you into getting this. I'm a marketer. With social media, with everything now, like, we can't do that anymore. This should be about growing authentic and real relationships. And I think this whole thing with the EU being the beginning of regulation in AI, I think that's good. Yeah. Ultimately, I think it's good.
Yeah. Because it doesn't kill AI.
No.
It doesn't kill the whole thing. It actually just forces you to use AI in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe not making your best work because of AI sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the basic marketing principles haven't changed.
Right.
And that's just it. I think it's just nice to know this actually doesn't change the most important things about marketing. It just will need some adjustments to create a new workflow for some marketers, for sure.
Shine light into the shadows and get real people to be real people again.
That's exactly right. And the more specific you can be with your audience, like again, what you were saying, remember that you're writing to human beings and just being really specific with that person. Like you're just writing to, this is my target demographic. I'm going to write specifically to this person. Yeah, the basic principles of marketing haven't changed.